In sad news, though, we need to report that Betsy Palmer, we need to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see, that happened just, a couple of days ago?
Yeah. It was one of those deals where somebody had tagged me in a post on Facebook, and I was like, wow, I mean, we never really got to we had Betsy Palmer on the show. It was actually the very first interview that was ever played on DEADPIT was a Betsy Palmer interview, I think. Or it was it was on the very first show we ever did an interview on, I know that.
Yeah.
And that was done by a friend of ours that did it. But we met her, and Pizzow wanted me to contribute like a little quote just describing her because I'd got to meet her, and a lot of people were talking about they didn't get to meet her at the show or anything because she only did one show in Kentucky that I know of, and that was the Scarefest show, probably about 7 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was like, she was a foul-mouthed grandma is the best way to describe Betsy Palmer, because she was like, at that time, she was probably right at, how old was she when she passed away? Like 83?
83, 84, yeah.
Yeah, so she was in her late 70s by that point. But, man, she seemed so full of life for somebody at that age, and just so warm and friendly towards people, but at the same time kind of kicked back, and kind of like if Stone Cold Steve Austin was an old, like, grandma or something. Kind of reminded me of that. Just very chilled, laid back, use some foul language every once in a while for, hilarity.
Well, she was just like I think she had reached the age at some point where she just didn't give a fuck about like anything that she said or anything. I mean, that's a great kind of freedom to get to where you're just like, I'm not going to try to censor what I say around people, and that's the way she was when you went up to her and talked to her. Like anything that you asked her, she would tell you, and she would be really, really honest about it. And she was just fun to be around. She wasn't stuck up or even in any way kind of, shy around people or anything, or tried to be off to herself. Like she was all about talking and hugging you and, hanging on you and shit. It was just really,
yeah,
she's a really cool person.
Some of the times too, like, and I appreciate this for the people that you meet at horror shows. We know they're there to make money, but at the same time, I remember when we went up to her and we were like, yeah, we did this radio show, buddy of ours interviewed, and I always remember this. She goes, now I appreciate you guys doing the show, and we love all the people that help us and everything, but I've got to charge $20 to sign this shit.
Is that what she said?
Yeah, and she said, I mean, that's just how these work, and we're like, we know. But I appreciate that people do that, because it's almost like, well, I kind of feel bad and I'm charging this, but it's kind of how it works, and I always remember that.
This is how it's going to be. So.
Yeah, I've got to charge $20 to sign your shit. That's what she said.
Our leaving popped up. Give me $20.
Yeah.
Now, the thing I remember about her was while I was talking to her, she's having another conversation with somebody about James Dean. That's the other thing that, like, she's well known for, is that she had sex with James Dean. I don't know if you were aware of that, but, like, they were a couple at one point in time back in the 50s.
Yeah, I think she was telling that story at the, there's a Q&A that we did kind of moderation on, or we tried to do moderation on, not really our thing.
No.
But, yeah, I remember she was telling that story there. And everybody just seemed to love her, man. Like, that was one thing.
Well, yeah, it's that she was like the crazy grandmother that told sex stories about James Dean. I mean, what's not to love, really?
Yeah.
It's an insane kind of thing.
But over the years, I had noticed that you didn't really see her. You used to see her at quite a few shows in the Northeast and stuff like that, but the last couple of years, I don't know if I'd seen her at any shows, so I don't know if she was in poor health for a little while or what, but I wasn't completely shocked just because, she's 83 years old, or whatever it was, 83, 84 years old. But at the same time, I mean, she'd been around for so long and was just such a staple at all these horror conventions, and just so loved by all of the Friday the 13th fans and all of the actors and actresses from those movies. it's just sad. You know, I mean, when you see people like this pass on, like Marilyn Burns as well was another one that passed away not too long ago. That you see at all these shows, and you kind of see them as more than just the person from that movie. You know, I mean, they're a real person.
I think that, I mean, I love Marilyn Burns in that movie, man, but I think that Betsy Palmer was kind of like an icon. I really do, in terms of horror film. I was thinking about this before she passed away when I was watching Friday the 13th on one of the last Friday the 13th, because we had like two of them that were like right together, you know.
You're going to have another one in November, too.
Yeah. And I was thinking, because I went back and watched the first one, like, by far, out of all of those movies, all of the Friday the 13th, she's probably the only legitimately good thing, acting-wise, that happened in any of those movies. Like, that whole performance that she puts on in that movie is completely insane and kind of, it's over the top, but it's really believable at the same time. Like, out of any of those movies, I think she is the only person that carried a movie that wasn't Jason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely, you know, that one movie, even though I think both of us were saying when we were kids, we really didn't appreciate that movie as much.
Yeah, because you're not looking, you just want to see Jason. Like, you're not looking for any kind of.
Yeah, the more you watch the first one, and as you get older, the more you appreciate about it, because it was different, and I think she did do a great job in that role, especially at the end, the last 10, 15 minutes of the movie. But, you know, she's definitely going to be missed. We only got to meet her that one time. That was the only show we've ever seen her at, I think. I don't think she'd ever done another show we were at, had she?
No, that was the only time I ever remember her being at one.
So I'm glad that we got to meet her, and definitely want to send best wishes to all her family and stuff, too.